advantage of the refuge of Sangha as a basis from which we can then connect, with the other two refuges, Dharma, the laws of nature, and Buddha, which is awareness, being aware rather than lost in what is occurring, what is happening. And I, recently heard in a talk the word organic divinity, which I find very beautiful way of or an organic sacredness, which abides in everything and everyone we meet in our lives and also in ourselves. It's a beautiful way of pointing to the Dhamma. And I remember, when my first teacher, Ajahn Buddhadasa, when he gave walking meditation instructions, he would say, imagine you're walking on the body of God. He said that to the Westerners, and it totally blew my mind, like, what? And then I was like, yeah, that actually works for me, and it gives me a sense of awe. Imagining I'm walking on the body of God. That's powerful. So I'm going to start with the four dharmas of Gampopa again, which is, one of the founders of the Kagyu tradition. And it's a very simple, powerful way of arriving here. So I'm going to read those four slogans, and after each slogan, I'm going to ring the bell. And please, allow the slogan and the sound of the bell to take you deeper. So, if we know how to use the equipment we have got, which means, these biocomputers, which we call human bodies and our mind as well, if we know how to use it, it can become, a really powerful instrument. And that's what this training is all about, to consistently work at that. So contemplate silently as the bell is ringing. Grant your blessings so that my mind may be one with the Dharma. Grant your blessing so that Dharma may progress along the path. Grant your blessing so that the path may clarify confusion. And grant your blessing so that confusion may dawn as wisdom. So, one way of how we can allow confusion to dawn as wisdom is to say simply yes to our experience and then stay with it as it is. And through that, we're going to drop deeper into the pure experience of the now underneath the surface turmoil. And that's what I spoke about last week. And today I want to go a bit more into that. And, one way of illustrating how that process occurs is the ancient list of the 7 factors of awakening. And I spoke about that a little bit in the guided meditation last time too. But I want to go more into it today. So the 7 factors of awakening, sometimes also called 7 factors of enlightenment. And the Pali word is Bojjhanga. And we can find that list, in the early Buddhist teachings from the very beginning, and also, up to the later schools. And they are still, one of the most expedient means, to describe what the effect of the practice is, that we are actually, innately have those 7 qualities of the mind, but then through practice, we are polishing and strengthening those 7 factors. And they are sometimes in the scriptures, they are, compared to gems, which we already have. And once we, realize it, that we have those gems, we can consciously start to polish them and make them more and more capable of reflecting certain facets of our experience back to us, so that we start to understand conditionality. And then, a deep understanding of conditionality translates into letting go, into wisdom and compassion. And that's one way, how we can simply describe what the practice does for us. And the 7 Bojjhanga, they are also sometimes called the anti-hindrances, because they present the opposite of wandering mind. And, we can simply start practicing the 7 factors by using one of the hindrances as an object, but we can also now use the breath, use a mantra, use sensations in the body, whatever we like actually. But we can also use a present hindrance. So we don't need to, make the hindrance go away in order to practice, but we can notice, here's fear. And then being aware of the fear brings already up the first factor of awakening, which is sati, mindfulness or awareness. And then, so bringing that up and then adding the other ones, letting them arise, automatically the progression of the 7 factors of awakening starts to emerge. And then the hindrance, is no longer hindering us. It's no longer taking us, on a aimless wandering in the habitual mind, but it allows us to drop under the surface turmoil into a more deeper layer of the mind, where there is more simplification and more stillness. And from that vantage point, we can see the structure of our experience, because we are not so lost in the content. So we're not so lost in the stories, but we can see what all of those stories have in common. What they have in common is, if those stories are pleasant, we want them. And if it's unpleasant, we don't want them. That's one thing. And then we can also see, they have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So, being able to notice that when we are triggered is just really what we are training in. And then we still have the unpleasant sensations in the body and in the mind, but we have a perspective on it. And there's no longer that need, to manipulate it. And to get more and more confident in that this is the path, because it feels kind of counterintuitive because of the unpleasantness. But once we get more and more confident that this is truly so, we have more and more resilience that we can really drop in this way. And then that creates space. And then that spaciousness, allows metabolizing to occur. All of those difficult things, we allow them to just be and do their thing. We're no longer trying to have it different than what it is, because we have understood through observation, repeated observation, that this actually is the way. And as it's so often said, the obstacles are the path. They're not in the way, but they are the way. And in between those obstacles, there's then also, not great spaciousness and relaxation, enjoyment, ease, and so on. And that's wonderful. But then bing, something happens again. And there's nothing wrong with that, because life is one thing happening after the next, as we all know. I think Winston Churchill is on record for having said, life is one damn thing after the next. And I think in a way, that's, we all know about that. So, rather than trying to get away from unpleasant experience or trying to pin down and own pleasant experience, we are mindful of the experience which is happening in the moment. And that's already the first factor of awakening, being there. So not trying to change or manipulate our experience, but accepting, opening to it, giving space to it. And another comparison in the scriptures is those 7 factors are compared to a king, who has a full kingly wardrobe, and he can choose, what he wants to wear. So it's a sense of mental mastery. That you just go to the cupboard and then you see, okay, today I want to have this, and then you just pull out that one. So it's that sense of mastery which is the result of training, of having been trained in this trade, of being a king, and then being able to really take advantage of it, not only in good weather, but also when we are challenged. In particular, then we need it. So knowing what's happening without becoming it, knowing that there is fear without being the fearful one, knowing that there is lust without being the lustful one. So we are not wrapped up in it. We are not identified with it. Makes such a difference. So not drowning in it, but still, going under the surface of it. And what I also find beautiful, the feeling is healing. Being with the feeling, being with the sensations, with space around it, allows natural healing to happen. The same, when we cut our finger, for example, we clean the wound, we maybe, protect it with a Band-Aid, but then we let the body do the healing. We don't know how it's doing it, really, but it's happening. If we all 5 minutes, pull off the Band-Aid and fuss around with it, the healing will be really difficult. We can trust the healing is happening. We just need to put the right causes and conditions in the place. And the same is with those 7 factors of awakening. It's natural law, really. And it supports, clear seeing. And that's, another word for vipassana. supports clear seeing. And and we see the content constantly changes according to what's happening, but the structure is always the same. And then it's not that we are ignoring the content, but we have a different relationship to the content. We no longer try to get somewhere else where there is not so much content happening, but we start to have a different relationship to it. And I think that's maybe enough in terms of introduction. And now I would like to share with you a poem from the book, The First Three Women, which, speaks about the 7 factors of awakening. Maybe before I just mention them one more time. Sati, mindfulness or awareness. Dhammavichaya, interest or investigation of dharmas. Virya, energy. Piti, joy, subtle joy. Pasadi, calmness. Samadhi, stability of mind or focus. And upekkha, evenness of mind, or sometimes also called equanimity. So those are the 7 factors of awakening. And in this poem, some of them are slightly called different. Interest is called curiosity here, and energy is called courage. So, there's different ways of looking at it. And upekkha is called perspective, which is also a beautiful way of translating the word upekkha. So the poem is called Chenta, Conqueror. I was forever getting lost until one day the Buddha told me, to walk this path, you will need 7 friends: mindfulness, curiosity, courage, joy, calm, stillness, and perspective. For many years, these friends and I have traveled together, sometimes wandering in circles, sometimes taking the long way around. There were days when I thought I couldn't go on. There were days when I thought I was finally beaten. It's scary to give all of yourself to just one thing. What if you don't make it? Oh, my heart, you don't have to go it alone. Train yourself to train just a little more gently. Train yourself to train just a little more gently. So let's now, start with settling in for the meditation. And find a posture you can sustain for about 35 minutes or so. Sensing the weight of the body on the cushion, on the chair. And allowing the breath to take you into the body. Noticing how you're feeling, body, heart, emotions, and the mind. Whatever you're bringing here, that's what it is. And then maybe sensing the gravity which gently pulls us towards the soil underneath where we are sitting. And with the out breath, we can, send down some roots into the soil. And with the in breath, breathing up the stability and the vastness of the earth. Which is made of the same elements as our bodies. There's no difference. And our bodies are plugins into that vastness. And remembering that, provides a grounding and the stability which we need, especially in these times where there's so much uncertainty. It's a remembering of bringing that together which belongs together. And this is already the first factor of awakening, with awareness, mindfulness of the earth, the soil underneath us. And even if you can't really connect, then being aware of the numbness, being aware of the inability to connect, that's also something to be aware of. And automatically, the first step towards connecting. So there's nothing which is wrong or not good enough. It's just what it is. That's where we are starting. A journey of 100,000 miles starts with the first step. Lao Tzu. It's such a beautiful saying. Because it's so true and so simple. The first factor of awakening, sati, mindfulness, awareness. And then, if we want to continue with the practice, there needs to be some interest, curiosity. Sometimes it's also translated as investigation of dharmas, the Dhammavichaya, the second factor. So an urge to know. I would also, call it the urge to evolve. Rising, to the occasion by paying attention to our experience and developing a relationship. Then if that is present, then energy is also needed to really stay with the experience. That's the third factor of awakening, virya, or energy, or courage, as it's called in the poem. And then, if we are succeeding in connecting with our experience, there's also maybe a subtle joy which comes from that sense of connection, which is the next factor, number 4, pity. Pali word again. A certain, freshness which comes from being with our experience in a way which is more intentional, and there's a certain crispness and sharpness to it, which comes from that intention, the interest to know, to understand. And that makes all of the difference. And then slowly, any tension starts to smooth out a little bit, which brings up that subtle sense of joy, or maybe we can call it contentment. Which helps to drop a little bit deeper. And wider. We could almost say, feeling at home in our experience. So, these aimless wanderings of the hindrances, nivarana, aimless wandering, that is not happening now. It's dropped underneath the surface. And then, the next factor of awakening emerges, which is passaddhi, calm. So allowing the mind to be without getting involved. It's almost like a little bit of a balm, which we are applying so that, all the certain healing quality which comes from that calmness, and then brings up the next factor of awakening, samadhi, or collectedness, focus, stability. When the fragmentation, starts to disappear, there's a sense of immersion in the experience. Really being under the surface in that more simple realm of stillness and samadhi. There's no more stories, but we can see structure. arising and ceasing, breath, constant change. And there's like a bigger picture emerging. Very simple. And as we are noticing this natural progression, which starts with awareness, mindfulness, and interest, there's also like a faith in that truth, that this is really the way the mind works. It's not something we are artificially trying to pull out. It's a natural blossoming of those 7 factors. And then the last one is the called upekkha, or evenness of mind, sense of perspective, equanimity. So, connected with what's happening, yet spacious and balanced. And in the scriptures, that is talked about as dwelling free from desire and discontent, like a bird's eye view. Things are still happening, but we are not completely lost. We see certain laws of nature operating, and they are not personal. This is how it is. And this, upekkha strengthens then our ability to bring mindfulness and awareness to experience. And it's like a, spiral going deeper and deeper into reality. And the factors of awakening number 2 to number 5 are more energizing, which is interest or curiosity, energy, and joy. They are more energizing. And then the last 3, calmness, stability, and evenness of mind, they are more calming. And depending, where our mind is, we emphasize the 3 which are more energizing, or the 3 which are more calming. Bringing the mind into balance, the middle way, not getting stuck on extremes. Like, when we have a little boat on a river, coming to the middle, being in the middle of the river and allowing the river to take us. We can stir, with our rudders, and we can also add tempo to it if we like. But as soon as we get stuck on one of the banks, coming back to the middle, and not interfering with the natural flow. So as you are now sitting with those 7 factors, I gonna chant for you one of the Parita chants, the blessing chants, which is called Bojjhanga Parita, the enlightenment factors protection. And it's usually, particularly used for overcoming illness. So if you have anyone in your family or in your circle of friends who is unwell, you can hold an image of them in your mind while I do the chanting. Bojangko sati sankhato Dhammanang vichayo tata Viryang piti pasati bojangka Chatata pare samatupe kapojangka Satete sapatasina munina sammatakata Pavita pahulikata sangvatantiyapin yayanipa nayachapodiya etena satchava chena sotite hotu sabata ekasmin samayenato mokalanam chakasapang Gilane tu kite tisva bochanke satate sayite chatang apinam ditva rogamuchim sutang kane etena satchavachena sotite hotu sabata ekata Tammaraja Pikelanena Pipilito Chunda Terenata Nevapana Petvana Satarang Samotitva Chaapata Tanghavuta Sitanaso Letena Satchavachena Sotite Hotu sabata pahina te chaapata dinanam pimahesinang makahatakile savapatano patitam matang etena satchavachena sotite hotu sabata. Just allowing those words to sink in, those ancient words. Healing the mind from fragmentation so that it can see more clearly. And this clear seeing liberates. Liberates, from assumptions which are just habitually repeated patterns of thinking. Maybe starting, with an early trauma and then just repeating until there is a real deep insight and it stops. And noticing the spaciousness of the mind, which doesn't end at the walls of the room we are sitting in, is boundless space. The vibrancy of that spaciousness, the aliveness, it's not a lacking emptiness, but rather a fullness out of which everything emerges and ceases back into. And then there's that which knows this aliveness, which is aliveness itself. And we can be that. We can really sense that in our own experience as we are sitting here. And with sensing that there is also a benevolence and a feeling of well-wishing. We call that metta in the Pali language. This is, the same root as the word mitra, which means friend. Kalyana Mitra, you might have heard that word. Connecting with that sense of well-wishing for maybe the particular friend which you brought up when I did the chanting. Maybe somebody else, some lovely being in your life, a baby, a puppy, a sweet being, which naturally, kickstarts that sense of benevolence and well-wishing more clearly. Sensing in your heart area how the heart responds if we bring up an image and an intention like that. So may all beings be happy. May all beings be at ease, including ourselves, with the in-breath, allowing that sense of benevolence to spread out all through your body. And with the out-breath, allowing it to gently, without any pressure, also radiate out in front of you. And then also to one side and all around the body without any pressure. And above and below. Radiating out, over the whole of the area where we are sitting, whichever location on the planet. And then from there, all around the whole planet. and all beings on this planet, as we are now in this very powerful transition phase, starting to understand, because of the climate crisis, starting to understand that we are all not separate from the planet or from each other. So with the inhale, paying attention to how it feels, this benevolence, metta in the body and in the mind. And with the out breath, allowing it to radiate out into the spaciousness without any pressure. And connecting with this evolutionary call, we can sense to develop ourselves and what we have received from our ancestors. I hand that over to future generations. And really honoring that calling in ourselves. Picturing behind us, like generations of ancestors, and in front of us, future beings. And all of them, including ourselves, we have emerged out of the soil of this planet, which has been, recycled and recycled over countless generations of living beings on this planet since over 4 billion years. And being part of that process, not being able to fix it, because there always will be impermanence and there always will be suffering as long as the mind attaches. But we can use it in order to open up more and then, bring that into the process for the benefit of all sentient beings, including ourselves. That's something we can do. So getting an increasing sense of perspective, which is actually the seventh factor of awakening, upekkha, evenness of mind. And that sets the stage, for us to be able to learn from it and do things differently, independent from what others are doing. And in a minute or so, I'm going to ring the bell. Just coming back to the body and the sense of gravity.